I don't know about you, I really liked that with the violin and just the voices. That was lovely. Yeah, that sounded really nice. Let's bow our heads as we get started. Our gracious Father, thank you for today, for your Sabbath. Thank you for giving us physical health and the ability to move and to be active in our existence. We need and ask your presence, that you would help us to understand how you intend for us to function and to have abundant life, as you have intended from the beginning and are continuing to work out. In Jesus' name, amen. So our topic today, whatever you want to call it, whether you want to call it exercise, which sounds a little sterile, or activity or movement or whatever you want to call it, how do we have this abundant life as a whole person, heart, mind, soul, strength, with our activity? Quick recap, we're using this model. This is lifestyle, the big foundation. Science shows is the big kahuna, if you will. And two fundamental principles. Number one, what do we exist to do? Connect. It is about connection. And whether you believe in God or not, if you study humanity long enough, you can't help but come to this conclusion. We exist to connect. Therefore, our working model is like a neuron. It's all about the connections and how those work, both in the vertical with our Maker and with each other. And the picture you continuously come back to from whatever perspective is a group of people engaged in healthy, sustainable living that helps us thrive. Principle number two, what is the product of existence that we all want, regardless of what you believe or what perspective you're coming from? It's about pleasure. Physically, emotionally, mentally, socially, spiritually, sustainable pleasure. Deeper, bigger pleasure, not just the superficial, temporary stuff. So this really is what it's about. The word Eden means pleasure, the garden of pleasure. That is the Creator's intention. So how do we get in sync with, cooperate with that plan, that intention? Last time we left off with rest. We're working through the vitalities or fundamentals of healthy living. I still really like this picture. I think it just says it all. And today we're doing activity, exercise, whatever we want to call it. But I'm going to suggest we need to sort of rethink our understanding, our perspective, our attitude, whatever you want to call it, how we view movement or exercise. When we say the word exercise, what comes to your mind? Running, walking, working out, lifting weights. Having a plan. Okay. Are they positive or negative images? Both. Okay. Both. How so? Overdoing it. Feeling happy. Okay. So it could mean either one or both. So what is God's intention for exercise? Yes.
Whatever God has provided, talent, anything, if you don't exercise, use it, you will lose it.
Okay, use it or lose it with pretty much everything, yes. So I was figuring out, what is an image that best represents exercise that conveys the idea of what God has in mind for us? What do you think it would be? What would you come up with? Of course, I had to pick from a set of pictures, but... Gardening. Okay, yeah, Garden of Eden. Gardening, sure. Anything else?
Hiking out in the mountains.
Hiking in the mountains. There's a lot of things that we could do, right? Yes.
I hike around here and get to see a lot of everybody's flowers. I take lots of pictures.
Hike around here through the neighborhoods, taking pictures of flowers.
My Fitbit says I'm still burning a lot of calories even when I stop and take pictures.
So Fitbit says we're still burning the calories even though we're stopping to do the pictures. Yes. So you're thriving in the process. You're enjoying it. Is it painful? No. No, and it doesn't have to be. So this is the picture that I picked. You know, exuberant, beautiful setting, just loving life. There's a song I've come across recently. How many of you have heard of Jason Gray? Okay, decent number. So there's one song, the lyrics of which I think speak to this. And in this context, first of all, a question. Why did God make us with bodies? Yes. We're in the image of God. Why not just a ghost-like presence without a physical body? Why not just a consciousness disembodied like many kind of believe in?
Maybe so we could see each other?
So we can see each other? Okay.
Connect.
And to be God's hands and feet? Okay. It's a kind of a weird question. We don't think in those terms, but just stop and think about it for a minute. Why did God make us with the bodies that he did? Versus some other things. I mean, we do all these movies these days about all these imagined aliens and what they're like and what they do. It's pretty weird bodies. Why did God give us the body that he did? Well, again, what was his original purpose? What does he intend that we should experience in our existence? Always joy. Enjoying our existence. Pleasure. Wholesome, happy pleasure, right? So apparently he gave us this vehicle to fulfill those purposes in sustainable, wholesome ways. Okay, so here's the lyrics of the song. The song is celebrate. And I'll skip some of it. I got joy singing in my soul. Turn me up like a radio. I can't keep it to myself, and I don't even want to. Tune me in to your frequency, running through every part of me, till I become the song singing back to you. I got 2 hands. They were made, you know the song? They were made for clapping. 2 feet. They were made for dancing. 1 voice, gonna make some noise. I was made to celebrate. Do you buy it? What's going on in heaven? When the Bible describes the angels in heaven, what's going on? I'm strumming a harp on a cloud. I think I'm not bored, but I'm not sure. What was that?
If that's the case, I would not be interested in going.
Oh, I don't want to go. Okay. I'm not sure I'd be too interested either. What does the Bible describe going on in heaven? Celebration, praise, rejoicing, joy. It's an active picture. Do you imagine the angels praising just like standing like a statue and there's this beautiful praise music coming out? Is there motion going on? Yeah. It's interesting with human cultures. There was a period of time, I took some time out of college. I was living in Reno, working on a construction project, and I was going to the Reno Sparks Adventist Church. This church was a third white, a third black, and a third Tongan. It was great. I loved it.
Tonga is from where?
Tonga?
Africa?
No, islands.
What?
Islands.
Pacific Islands. Oh.
Out in the ocean.
Oh, South Pacific people.
Yeah. So black churches, I don't know if many of you have been to black churches, but they have a different style. There's a lot of moving going on. And there's arms, and there's shouting, and there's calling out to the preacher, and I think it's fun. It's cool stuff. So, this goes on. Come on, people. If you got a pulse, there's a reason. It's more than enough. That's a reason it's more than enough to kick off your shoes and dance like it's your birthday. I got 2 hands, they were made for clapping, 2 feet made for dancing, 1 voice gonna make some noise. I was made to celebrate. I was made to celebrate. With all I am, I give you praise. It repeats. We're celebration machines spilling out to the streets till the whole world can see. We're celebration machines spilling out to the streets till the whole world can see. I buy it. I think God made us, gave us the physical bodies to thoroughly enjoy our existence. So then how can we have negative views of exercise? Sometimes it hurts.
That's
Okay.
because you're not used to it.
Maybe because you're not used to it.
I have a question. So one thing I've observed in our society is that for some people, enjoyment or joy is going home and sitting and watching other people exert, like drinking beer and just sitting.
So our society culture, we go home and sit and watch other people be active.
Yeah, play basketball.
Play basketball,
baseball,
football.
soccer. But that's for a lot of males in our society, that's enjoyment after they're done working. Go home, sit, or Sunday.
Our version of enjoyment.
Yeah.
I would submit that's a very restricted version of enjoyment. Really missing out on the abundant living, of course. But yes, that's what our society's doing. And then, of course, the picture that we've been using, why are they doing this? Are they trying to get points on their Fitbit? Get in their steps for the day?
Looks like they're enjoying it.
And they're just having fun. They're just enjoying it. This is what I'm made to do. Woohoo! Let's go run through the sunset in the field with mom and dad and the family, and maybe they're pretending somebody's chasing, or they're pretending they're a family of birds or planes. I don't know. They're just having fun. This is what it's about. Okay, let's make this practical. So one of the things I've been experimenting with, I don't know about many of you, but in medical training, you get pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. You get into medical practice and you get pushed and pushed. And it's all about getting the next thing done. And you get in this mode of checking the boxes. Got to achieve, got to get this done. And it's about the process and not the enjoyment. And it's easy to do the same thing with healthy living, including exercise. We got all these trackers now. Well, it's cool, we got the technology. But am I focused on, am I spending my attention, my experience, my consciousness on the technology and the steps, or the enjoyment? Okay, follow with me a little bit. So I've been doing an experiment over the last year. So when I go out for a walk or a jog or whatever, instead of trying to get something done or hit a time or get a distance, how much enjoyment can I get out of this from the pure process? So yes, stop and smell the flowers, but just what I'm experiencing physically. Does it feel good to run? Is it starting to hurt to run? Okay, well, I have a choice. I don't have to keep doing what I'm doing in the rest of life. Okay, this isn't feeling good anymore. I'm just going to walk now. Okay, that feels good. A few minutes later, okay, I feel like running again. And so I run until I don't feel like running. It's a completely different process for me. I've never heard anybody teach that. But is not that what it is about? Yeah. So I played with this a little bit more, got a little more pieces to the puzzle. So last Sabbath in the afternoon, I went out to Silver Falls. I did the loop. And my goal was to see how much I could enjoy it. Just the process. Yes, enjoying the view. Obviously, I got some fun pictures. I'm catching a waterfall here. I got some other pictures. But what felt good? So I started out jogging, and there was a bunch of ice and snow, so we did that, stopped that for a while, but I ended up going at a pretty good clip, but just because it felt good. Not because I was trying to hit something on my tracker or whatever. Again, that's a fine thing. Yes?
It felt good just to see those images on Facebook.
Thank you. Cool. Yeah, share the joy. So I ended up, doing 8 miles, 2.5 hours. That's good as far as measurements go. I'm glad I can still do that. I'm over 50 years old these days. So I'm really thrilled that I have that capacity, but the numbers didn't matter. What mattered is I got done and I was like, yeah, it felt good to sit down, but I was charged up. I was so refreshed. I was so ready for the next week. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
It didn't bother you that your fitness tracker, when you stopped to take that picture, was telling you Workout, pause.
Exactly. Did I truly cut loose from the leash of the technology? I didn't start it. I didn't start it as a workout. It's like whatever it tells me at the end is fine. I'm interested to glance at it, but
If I stop, mine says workout, pause.
yeah.
Sometimes it's like, hey, I'm doing pull-ups here.
I am not positive.
The tyranny of the technology. Which is why for me, I don't start a workout thing. Because I don't want that to be my focus. I don't want that dictating to me the experience. This is a tool to help me achieve the real objectives, not this is the objective. Okay, and in our modern life, that's a pretty important distinction. And unless we make that choice, we will tend to get swept into the processes with the technology. So that's why it gets really, really important to apply the fundamental principles. What really is the intended outcome? It is to enjoy our existence. Interestingly enough, what kind of exercise is sustainable? How many people make New Year's resolutions, get a gym membership in January, and 3 months later, they cancel it because they're not using it? A lot. Why? Depends on who you are, yes.
Depends on whether you enjoy it or not.
Depends on whether you enjoy it or not.
I'd rather do steps in the pool than run in chasing you up somehow.
It's what you enjoy. It's what you enjoy. And what's been interesting to me as I've been just trying to understand this is there's the joy of the journey, there's the joy of stopping and smelling the flowers, but then we often miss the joy of the internal experience. Regardless of where I am, does it feel good to run right now? Does it feel better to walk right now? To walk slow, to walk fast? Is this enjoyable physically? And I can't speak for the rest of you, but through my life history, it's been about you just push. And you ignore what your body's telling you because you got to get it done. You got to push. And so you end up sort of beating up yourself in the process. And okay, well, I checked the box, but that's all the enjoyment you get is the box check. The rest was endurance.
Yeah, so I found over the years, if I make mistakes and overdo it, I hate it. But if I don't, I get all the benefits mentally, physically. It's good for, I learned at Weimar, it's good for everything in the body, every organ to walk.
Yes, so it's important not to overdo it because then it's miserable.
Yes.
But you don't, it's enjoyable.
And then we get this wonderful, what is it?
Endorphins?
Yes, endorphins.
Yes. So yes, it is the secret. Connecting to the purpose of our existence. Now, it's not always going to be honky-dory peaches and cream. There's going to be times that you have to decide, okay, well, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go do something even though I don't feel like it at the moment because there's a better purpose. So I'm not trying to say it's always just whatever you feel like doing. Okay, so why has exercise not been an issue in the past? Why are we now having to think about it? Because we don't have to exercise to live today, to make money. Most of human history, you had to work just to live. I mean, to grow your crops, to take them to market, to get them, to build your house. So exercise really wasn't an issue. But now we have cars and computers and desks and chairs and a lot of things pushing us to just sit. So now we have to start thinking about it because we're living so unnaturally. So how do we live more naturally according to our design and in ways that are enjoyable? So have you heard sitting is the new smoking? So yes, you have.
Sorry, the new what?
The new smoking. Sitting is the new smoking. What does that mean? The more you sit, the quicker you're going to die, more or less, yeah. So what's going to get you in the hospital more, smoking or lots of sitting? That's part of what the science is sort of sorting out these days. And what's interesting is that sitting seems to be different than whether you're getting exercise or not. So in other words, you can exercise, but if you still do a lot of sitting, there's still a negative effect of that, even though you're getting good exercise. Even though you're watching them play football. So the challenge in today's life is, how do we have things that break up those prolonged periods of sitting? So now we have sit-stand desks or standing desks.
Standing in the kitchen for me is a really bad thing. If I cook for too long and I don't take a break.
Standing in the kitchen too long is a problem.
It's very bad.
Bad on the feet?
I know I get swelling, less now that I'm not eating other things. But,
Swelling? Yeah. So bottom line, though, our bodies are made to move. And so how do we keep them in that zone of how they're designed to run, how they're designed to function? And I've been experimenting myself with some desks and stools and stuff. And or just taking a break. You know, here's a good use of technology. Have a timer that goes off periodically. Okay, it's time to take a stretch break. Or in my home office, I'll go down and I'll bounce on our little trampoline for a few minutes. You know, get things really moving and kind of swirling, if you will. Okay, this is the guidelines from the American College of Sports Medicine for exercise. What's really interesting is that historically in America, going back several decades, the thinking was you need a doctor's clearance or permission to start an exercise program. We laugh now, but that has been what our society has, where it's been, and the medical profession has been. You need to get your doctor's clearance before you start exercising, because exercise is dangerous. Well, that's completely flipped. Now it's dangerous not to exercise. Okay? And unless you have a good reason not to, you should be exercising. So yes, if you have chest pain when you start walking up a hill or something, or certain significant metabolic problems, you should check in with your doc, especially if you're going to do anything big. If you don't have any obvious big problems, big symptoms, just exercise and gradually build up your tolerance. That's kind of the bottom line. I mean, there's a whole flow chart here if we wanted to go through it, but the bottom line is you need a good reason not to exercise as far as the guidelines go. Now, how does this play into health? Some of this started hitting my screen. I was in internship in Pennsylvania, largest rural hospital in the country. Really interesting place. There's Amish and Mennonites and really interesting stuff. But the chief resident was actually a lady. We were talking one day in one of the doctor's little workrooms, and she confided in me that she was taking antidepressants. She was really struggling with depression. Sweetest person, lovely, lovely human being. And then she, in the process, tells me, oh, I so miss the days when I used to get out on my bike and go for a bike ride. You know, she's in like her 4th year living in the hospital. Long hours, never seen the light of day. These crazy things we do to train healthcare professionals, which is basically inhumane abuse, but that's another story. So that piqued my interest. So I went down to the medical center library in the basement. I looked up, is there any science on depression and exercise? And I was blown away. Okay, this is back in the day. This is a while back. Starting to feel old. A little while back. So I was blown away. Even with the systems we had at that point, I immediately pulled up over 50 studies linking exercise with depression, inverse relationship. Lack of exercise, you tend to get depressed, and you can use exercise as part of treatment. I was shocked. How come I wasn't taught this in medical school? And I went to Loma Linda. Never heard boo about this. This was completely new to me. And part of where I was coming from was I was interested in potentially an academic career in research as a means to change things. But then I started to see we've got a ton of research already, and the doctors don't know a thing about it. This is not changing things. Yes, we had 2 hands.
At Weimar, Dr. Nedley uses exercise as well as diet and light therapy to deal with depression.
Yes, you're referring to Nedley's depression program. Yes. In the back?
This is why it talks about working in the garden, digging in the dirt with your hands
Mm-hmm.
as a form of helping depression, because there's something in the ground that is very self-sustaining and helpful when you're working with plants and seeds and that sort of thing. I found when I came home from work, well, you're nursing, you're on the floor, you can imagine. Anyway, I got out and worked in my garden, and now I was feeling better.
Yes. So spirit of prophecy relative to gardening and its benefits. Yeah, if we function how we're designed to work, we work. It's pretty, and it's powerful stuff. It's not small stuff. So I was really intrigued to discover how much research there was, even back in the day, on exercise, but that is not getting into healthcare. So the question then is, well, how much can exercise be used as treatment? So what medical conditions do you think there's good science on for exercise? High blood pressure, yes. Heart issues, yes. Diabetes, yes. Depression, we just talked of, yes. Cholesterol, yes. Anxiety, yes. It's hard to find a condition that it's not helpful for. I was surprised even when I was doing some of my Master's of Public Health stuff, and we got into, this is not medical school, we got into some of the science on arthritis. Now, I don't remember a distinct teaching on it, but my impression from medical school was, oh, if it hurts, don't do it. So therefore, you basically shouldn't exercise if you hurt with arthritis. You know what the science actually shows? You need to be exercising if you have arthritis. Now, there are different kinds. There's osteoarthritis and there's rheumatoid arthritis. We want to be sensitive to some of those differences. Osteoarthritis is the most common form. The science is very clear. People with like osteoarthritis in the knee, you should be exercising. It helps. You get definite, measurable improvements. Longer till you need joint replacements and so forth and so on. So like every other body part, use it or lose it, as was said.
Mark, are you saying that if you have osteoarthritis in your knees, continuing to exercise delays the need for replacement of joint?
That's in essence what the weight of the science shows, yes.
That's very interesting because a lot of people think that the knees just wear out.
A lot of people think the knees just wear out.
And also the hips.
And the hips.
And they blame it on their exercise.
And they blame it on the exercise. Yes, yes, yes. And it's wrong. It's backwards.
Strengthening your muscles supports the joint.
Use it or lose it. Use it or lose it. Okay, you know what the most expensive condition in the country is? The most expensive medical condition in the country? Nope, it's not heart disease. Arthritis. The joints. Why?
You mean per person who has the condition?
In total, on average. Depending on which metrics, there's different ways of measuring things. But how expensive is it to replace a joint? How often are we replacing them these days? Ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. Well, finances have a big influence on it. Yes. Okay, it's important to understand something though with joints. What is the contact surface inside a joint? Cartilage. What's the blood supply to cartilage? None. There's no blood supply to cartilage. Where does it get its nutrition from? From the synovial membrane fluid that puts the fluid into the joint. What happens if anything impairs or plugs up the flow of blood?
Here you go.
Here you go. Yeah. There's your meniscus or something. Yeah. There we go. Real life pictures. Anything that impairs the flow of blood, especially the microcirculation, what tissues are going to get hit the hardest? Your joints, your cartilage. So osteoarthritis is largely an issue of degeneration of the joint. So Michael Greger, Nutrition Facts, has a great video that I actually have ended up using a lot. Low back pain, one of the most common conditions in the country. He goes through and shows the studies and the pictures from the studies showing the blood vessels getting kinked off just like they do to your heart or other things for other conditions. What do you think is going to happen to those joints in your back? Yeah, they're going to fall apart because they're starved to death. There's another video that I use a lot on YouTube. It was actually done here at OHSU. I go to YouTube, blood sludge. Blood sludge. SLUDGE. So it's like a 1-minute video. They actually did this in an animal model. You're looking under the microscope at capillaries and you're seeing the red blood cells flowing through. Okay? Before food, and then they feed a high-fat meal, and you see the blood just go blech and become sludge. So these red blood cells are just zooming through, happy as can be, eat the high-fat meal, and just goes to goo. What do you think is going to happen to the joints? I just saw an athlete here as a patient. I think she's about 30, been a pretty significant athlete for many years. We got an MRI. Her joints are like falling apart in her knees. She's only 30. Come to find out, she's also a nutritionist and has been on a high-fat diet for quite a while to keep her weight down. Like, oh, okay, I need to show you this video. And interestingly enough, she said, well, I have just been praying recently about what I need to be doing differently. And this is an answer to prayer. It's like, yeah, go God. So that's another problem with this big high-fat diet craze that's going on. Yes, you can lose weight doing it. It's not a good way to lose weight. It will have other effects. And it will make your blood into sludge and your joints will starve.
Will you ever be able, couple of questions, will you ever be able to get your joint back?
Will you ever be able to get your joint back?
The other question is, will this work for rheumatoid arthritis?
Rheumatoid arthritis. Okay, let me take those one at a time. We haven't done the studies to know what's possible. The typical teaching is it just wears out and it falls apart, and exercise is part of making it fall apart. Not true. I can tell you that when we were doing our medical clinic in Pennsylvania and doing a lifestyle program, one of my patients, I think she was 70, 75, she was bone on bone in the knees. Saw the orthopedist, said, yeah, you need a surgery yesterday. She said, let me put it off for a little bit. I want to try this lifestyle thing. He said, you're going to come crawling back to me on your hands and knees begging me to do this. Did our lifestyle program. We were doing the CHIP program at the time. Totally stuck to the program, and she's walking to tolerance. After a few months, she's walking miles every day, and 6, 8, 10 months down the road, she's walking 5 miles every day and has no pain. She goes back and sees the orthopedist, who happened to be right across the plaza from us, got new x-rays. She had some cartilage back. That's not possible medically. I've never heard or seen anybody say that that's possible. There's all kinds of stem cell injections in clinics and yada, 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 and different techniques for shaving and repairing and whatever. But imagine if we restored the fuel supply to the tissues. What's possible? We haven't done the studies. We haven't done the lifestyle change enough and to track it to really know. But I can tell you I have seen in my own patient, in at least that case, what's possible, and that it was something that's not thought possible. Now, rheumatoid arthritis, next question, is a very different physiology. Its basic physiology is an immune system thing. And so it's not just a choking off the fuel supply or the blood supply, it's an immune system attack. And the products of immune system things gone wrong with the chemicals causing inflammation. So pretty different, very, very different physiology, actually. Okay, so exercise is good for almost everything. Again, nothing crazy. What I basically tell patients is some discomfort, a little bit of pain is okay, but if you do something and then you're like in terrible pain for hours or days, that was obviously not the right thing for you. So learn to listen to your body, learn to work with the body, gradually ask it to do more. It usually responds pretty well. It tries to accomplish what we ask of it, but don't over ask of it. One of the things I see in occupational medicine that's been interesting is, especially when somebody works for a temp agency and they're thrown into a really busy manufacturing job, people that have been couch potatoes, and all of a sudden they're on an assembly line, they're having to do all the stuff really fast all day long, they'll just burn up and lock up their muscles and tendons in their forearms sometimes. And it takes months to get over that. And hand therapy, and it's not that the work was that bad, it's just their body couldn't handle it. You're going from 0 to 70 miles an hour, and it can't handle it. So work with your body. Pretty common sense stuff. Mild discomfort is generally okay. A lot of pain, a lot of prolonged symptoms is usually not. The other exciting thing about exercise is the brain. This is our fundamental organ for which we experience our existence. So we really want this working well, right? I do. And with all the increase in Alzheimer's and things, there's a lot of concern about brain health. I actually met the author of this at one point. This was a book a few years ago, The Revolutionary New Science of Exercise and the Brain. Supercharge your mental circuits to beat stress, sharpen your thinking, lift your mood, boost your memory, and much more. The science on exercise in the brain is pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. Between exercise and good basic nutrition, your brain can do a bazillion times better than average. Highly technical medical term there. Huge difference. And especially as we're seeing more and more of Alzheimer's and other dementias, I keep following the medical news, and like every week or two there's a new, oh, we just failed another drug for Alzheimer's. Oh, we just failed another drug trial for Alzheimer's. Oh, nothing's working. And they keep coming back to lifestyle. You know? I ended up connecting with an MD, PhD guy that's developed and is developing advanced technology for blood tests for Alzheimer's and other degenerative neurologic processes. He gets it. Lifestyle is really the most tangible thing we have right now. But there's not a lot of money to be made with it. So that's not where everybody's spending their time and energy. And yet that's where the evidence and the bulk of the potential is. So exercise is huge for the brain. Did I share with you the one guy with Alzheimer's that I worked with years ago? Can't remember if I may have shared that in a previous session. So this was another aha for me about what's possible. So years ago, my stepmother in California is working part-time with an elderly, well-to-do couple. They wanted her to do computer-based brain training with him for some reason. Academic software, research-grade software. So she's doing this, and she says, well, when you come down, would you please see this guy and see if you're able to help him? So we finally agreed to do that. I go down. Basically, he has Alzheimer's. Wife is in denial. Won't use the term, but that's what's going on. Said, I don't know what's possible. I can do my best. So I went back and I looked through all the science. Let's look at all the studies. So we put together a lifestyle program for him using the pyramid. Actually, it's in the days before the pyramid. Regular, good exercise, optimal nutrition, a few evidence-based supplements, and I went home. But she's continuing to see him and do this academic-based brain training program with him. And she's calling me up saying, this guy's blowing it out of the sky. He's like been down here all the time, and all of a sudden he's like way up here. Like, wow. They didn't teach me that was possible in medical school. Now I lost track of him. I don't know what eventually happened. But that was another instance where, wow, what if we actually do what's possible with lifestyle, and then we see what the body's able to do in response, if we support it and what it wants to do. So some pretty cool stuff, including with the brain. Now, for a few minutes, I would just like for us to hear and to share what is or isn't working for people with physical activity. I know we're going to postpone for another day Jim's exercise stuff, but he's doing some really cool exercise stuff. Linda, you were just sharing what you're doing. So can you tell us a little bit of detail? What are you doing in your exercise?
I also go to some,
And can we use the handheld? You're awesome.
I also go to some classes. But
Okay.
lately I've had, illnesses or whatever, and I'll get a spasm in my leg, and I've had to hold off because it doesn't get any better if you just keep irritating.
So you're listening to your body.
Yeah, so,
Good.
but I do power. I started when Brendan was 7 and he's 23 now.
Wow.
And I had hip trouble. And it's mostly gone every now and then. This one tries, but I used to think maybe I was going to have total hip replacement because I knew that after my babies, I couldn't walk right. And so slowly but surely, it's power that strengthened my muscles in my legs to make it so that I could walk. Just walk.
Finding exercise that works for some of your specific issues.
Well, we'd go for a walk in the neighborhood right when Brendan was little, and I'd say, I've gone halfway, bye guys. And they would go, and I would have to walk back because I couldn't go. And then
Wow.
I would stretch on the logs on the hike. I'd just stop and do the things they taught me, and, slowly but surely.
Tell us a little bit more about what you were describing about stopping and taking pictures of the flowers. So where are you walking? What does this look like?
Sometimes I walk to the club when I was getting more miles in because it's 8, 4 on the way and 4 back. And there's beautiful stuff along. You don't even realize people have flowers in their front yards. It's okay to take pictures.
Yes.
So that's where I started doing it. And then I take a walk over to Basil and up and back. And surprising what you find when you take
You're
the time.
enjoying it.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we like walking in neighborhoods we are, and we'll take pictures, or sometimes our daughter gets embarrassed walking with us because we actually like to smell some of the flowers. It's like, oh, Dad, don't do that.
These phones do amazing stuff.
Yes.
You don't have to be a photographer.
Yes. Anyone else? What do you enjoy with movement or exercise? Or have you figured out?
Well, I do water aerobics, except I had to lay off from it too because I don't know what I did to my back, but I couldn't even bend over. The next day I got up and I couldn't bend over, but I was trying to keep up with the new water aerobic instructor. Yeah, and she's probably about 40 and I'm 70 some, so. But I also walk my dog a mile a day, but she's getting old now. She's 13, so we don't walk as fast as we used to walk because she can't do it. But, and I ride the bike 4 miles at the courthourse.
Awesome. How often are you doing that?
3 days a week.
3 days a week.
But I walk every day.
Are you doing any group stuff?
Well, the water aerobics is group.
Is the water aerobics? So that's the other thing. Part of the science shows that for most people, not everyone, but for most people, doing things together makes a big difference. It's more fun, whether it's just a single partner going for a walk or whether it's doing a group class. Get to see people like you, going through the thing together. Again, we're built for connection. Some people like to do exercise by themselves, part of the time or all of the time. That's fine too. But the connectedness, the group thing is a surprisingly big deal for many.
Time goes faster, too.
Time goes faster, yes.
Oh, I was just going to say, so I go to the gym a lot now, and it's a social experience too. I've made new
Yes.
friends there, and I just spend time hanging out there. It's never been a place I could hang out like that, and just talk to people.
Yes. That's a little secret. That's actually why I have my office in the Courthouse Fitness Center, not because of the fitness, but for the community dynamic. Fitness is good. More important is the connectedness in the community.
I need to start going to that club. West Salem. I'm hearing some-
It depends on what time of day you go there, because
Yes.
I go there in the morning. I go there in the morning when there's a lot of older people there, and I'm starting to fit into that category. But they like to just hang out and be there. But if you go in the evening, there are all these compulsive younger people who are there after work, and they're just really intense, and there's a lot of them, and it's not as conducive to interacting, you know.
Yes. It's been very interesting having my office in the fitness center and watching the dynamics through the day. And what you're describing is exactly what I see.
I've had some real struggles with lower back pain, and through experience and exposure to medical professionals, other people who are starting to get a couple days older than me here and there, older than me, you know, and the water aerobics, I've met some of the coolest people. I fit in because of the early gray hair on me, okay? At my age, my membership doesn't cover the water aerobics classes. Yeah, and so without having to pay extra money, I have been friends with the instructors. And they pretend that they don't see me. And no, I do my own thing that a medical professional has given me exercises to do specifically in the pool. And they ignore me, let me do my thing. I don't get in anybody's way. And I've worked up from being horribly miserable at 100 backwards steps in the pool to today, yesterday I reached 2,000. I can do 2,000 steps backwards. You know, it's stages of 500 or 300 or whatever at a time. Hang out in the jacuzzi for a bit and talk to somebody, and then go back in and do my own. And again, the instructor is teaching a class, and we say hi to each other, and he kind of ignores, he, whatever, ignores me, and I do my own thing. And I'm starting to make friends with the people in the class, and I feel welcome. And that's God working. Bottom line. That's why I'm baptized Adventist today. When I used to just give her a ride to church, and those people, you know, thank God. Thank God.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes.
I don't even know where to begin because my activity level is entirely different than most of all of you guys. I've been through really nasty car accident, and many years ago, but experiencing the ramifications of a broken body. And part of that is a lot of spinal cord pain from neck movement. So I really have to be really mindful about just common ordinary movements throughout the day. But you talk about being created to move. My mind pushes me to keep moving. And yet through a lot of personal emotional stuff lately, depression and anxiety just robs you of life. And one of our sons needed help with the baby, with his, well, how old was he then? I guess he was like 5 months old at the time. And I thought, how am I going to do this? Because what's a baby? Require a lot of cuddling, a lot of moving, a lot of forward head movement. For me, that brings on this spinal cord nerve pain. So I just kept persevering, just seriously persevering. I've got migraines most of the days because of the activity. But the joy out of watching that little old face, the joy out of hugging him and loving him, and the frustration from when he won't often lay down in his bed and sleep by himself, but just sit there and hold him. God's given me the grace and the strength and the ability to keep doing that. And you know, as he grows, it's more weight bearing, right? So there's strength development in that. There's flights of stairs to take him up and down. There's all those other kinds of things. Plus, I don't like to be a couch potato, so I'm doing their laundry, I'm doing housekeeping, and all those other things. So, you know, we may not have to or be in a position to enjoy a club or do, running around the block or whatever. I'd love to. I'd love to be horseback riding and all those kinds of things, but the body won't tolerate it. So you do within you do.
Exactly. You do what works for you to your capacity, and all of it counts.
Yeah, and I've got horrible arthritis in my hands, a knee replacement, you know, the whole list. But you keep moving.
Yes, and what jumped out to me about what you just shared that's beautiful is the purpose is driving the movement. The body doesn't want to do it, but you have this connection purpose,
the individual that you're serving.
And then it's pulling along the physical.
But it is perhaps more on a familial context than when you
The connectedness, yes. And it's as we have that connectedness and that enjoyment that the rest of it serves its purpose in supporting that. So that was actually a perfect example of challenging circumstances, but the purpose, the higher purpose, bringing the physical along with it and supporting it. One last tip, and we're going to let you go. One of the coolest things I found with exercise that you can use as works for you, there's different terms for it. Sometimes it's called interval training, but that term gets used in different ways to mean different things. Let me teach you the principle, and then you can play with it for your circumstances and or limitations. So years ago, I did an elective rotation for medical school at the Lifestyle Center of America when it was still open. Spent some time with the exercise physiologist and learned some really cool stuff. They would take people, morbidly obese, couch potatoes, diabetics, etc., and they would start getting them full exercise benefit from day one without ever getting sore. I thought that was pretty cool. How are they doing it? So this format of interval training, so they would do something like, let's say you've got a 500-pound diabetic guy. He shows up, he hasn't exercised in years. They'll put him on something like a stationary bike, maybe a recliner, maybe not, and they'll have him pedal with resistance for like 30 seconds, and then just coast for 30 seconds. Then pedal for 30 seconds, and then just coast for 30 seconds. Do you know why you get sore when you exercise? Lactic acid. Your muscle work gets ahead of the body's ability to supply oxygen and nutrition. But if you only exercise for 30 seconds at a time, you never get into that lactic acid production. Okay? You can adjust the time frames, but the principle is short bits of work alternating with rest. And you can get all this exercise benefit. So you get all the benefit of doing the exercise, but you never get the soreness. And then you can work up relatively rapidly day to day. So you'd have people there for like 3 weeks at a time.
That's what we do when we're like backpacking on Mount Adams. As soon as our muscles start to feel like they're burning, we stop.
Just a sec. Yeah, so we've tried to apply this in some of our exercise adventures.
So we figured out when we're backpacking that if we stop for about 30 seconds when our muscles start burning, then we don't get very sore at all, even carrying like 35-pound backpack.
Or more. Yeah, so listen to your body. When you start to feel the burn, things start to hurt, you can either just stop on the trail for 30 to 60 seconds and rest completely, or you can just coast if you're like on a bike or something, and then go again. And when your body gets to that point again, well, take a little break again. So it's this getting out of the mode of push, push, push just because we're supposed to or we've got some other objective, and actually being in tune with and actively managing this beautiful body we've been given and managing it to get the most desirable, enjoyable experience in the process. So, okay, let's close. The next session, remember when we do the potluck, please bring the food without salt put in it so we can put salt on it and experiment with it and kind of play with that. And that will be April the 13th. And then there's only one more after that. Let's bow our heads. Yes, one question? Well, Mrs. Dash doesn't have any salt, so that's fine. Yeah, any other seasoning, as long as it's not a salt seasoning, not a garlic salt or a bouillon or soy salt. Yeah, no salt. Mrs. Dash is fine. We're going to have salt there. You can salt to whatever your heart's desire is, but you'll learn about salt and how it works and the different kinds, and we'll have fun. Let's bow our heads. Gracious Father, thank you for your goodness to us. Thank you that you gave us these amazing bodies to experience our existence in, and for them to be vehicles of enjoyment, wholesome, whole person enjoyment that honors you, that honors other people. Show us how to manage them well, to be in sync with you. And even though we all will eventually wear out and die on this earth, As we are in sync with you, life actually starts here and now. We thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen.